Hey everyone, Ivy Lee Gaming here, and today we're playing Dragonheir Silent Gods. For today's video, I'm going to continue my series for my updated Ultimate Beginner Guides. This time we're going to talk about understanding the game mechanics. But before we get into Season 1 new player information, let's give a little bit of a Season 4 teaser. Thank you to Dragonheir Silent Gods for sponsoring today's video. Dragonheir is my favorite sponsor because it's my favorite game I've played in such a long time. I really enjoy the graphics. They really knocked it out of the park with the new heroes of this season. We are on to Season 4, new season, new heroes, and new Otherworld. There's some really killer bosses this time around, and I hope you guys will enjoy. If you haven't already checked out Dragonheir, be sure to download using my link in the description or the pinned comment. It's available on Android, iOS, Mac, PC, Steam, or Epic Games. Alright, so we're going to continue this series. I've already done one video that kind of talks about the beginning, the first week of gameplay, really designed for that brand new player to, learn what to do, how to set things up, what matters, starting from your very first login through character creation and on, what to do daily, etc. But now we're going to kind of go into some topics a bit deeper and a lot of topics we haven't covered yet for this new series. If you've watched my old beginner guides, I have a really old one on my other channel that's from CBT2, and I have one from like 9 or 10 months ago, I think, on this channel with Horus on the cover. That is no longer relevant. This game has changed completely. So we're on to Season 1, the newly revamped Season 1 that's just completely different. So with that in mind, we have to, log into the correct account. This is not my Season 1 account. This is my main account. So yeah, luckily could switch characters, and that's what I need to do. Let's go to the Season 1 account here for referencing information. So we're going to talk in this video about the hero screens, the attributes, the stats, the recommendations, reviews, inspiration, resetting your heroes. How do you level your heroes? Taking advantage of a brand new system called the Hero Exercise that is not in other seasons quite yet. The Dupe System. What do you do with duplicates? How does that work? We're also going to talk about gearing, 2-piece sets, 3-piece sets, 1-piece sets, and artifacts. Then we're going to go into positioning and why does position matter? When does it matter? What do the little lines mean? All of the basics regarding positioning. And then team presets. This game does team presets so well. And along with that, timings for your runs and how to set those up logically. And then when do you need to manual? How do you manual ultimates to kind of maximize a battle that maybe you're stuck at? And yeah, that's kind of going to be the gist of this video. So let's get into it. So first up, the hero interface and stats. What do the stats really mean in this game? Now, when it comes to the mechanics, you need to understand how to build the heroes in order to, gear them, right? So obviously, like most games, you're going to be going crit rate, crit damage, attack on a damage dealer. But in this game, there are different ways that heroes scale. So when you see the details, you always want to check this details button when looking at hero skills so you can see what they scale off. Some heroes are going to scale off a little bit differently. Like here, Adolphus scales off of Enlightenment and Attack for damage. But just because he scales off of Enlightenment, which is often linked to derivative damage, doesn't mean he can't crit. You still can crit, unless you're talking about derivative damage specifically. Some heroes will scale off of defense for their damage, or HP, for example. See, like Isolde here. She does attack and max HP as her damage. So being a tank, you're going to build her with heavy HP and some defense, of course. And if you have some extra crit rate in there, it's only going to help her do a little bit of damage too. So this is really important for understanding how to build heroes. Now, if you want to know what the stats mean, like what does Enlightenment actually mean? What do you need to make Enlightenment higher? How does it get, what does it affect? There's actually pretty good explanations here. So like Enlightenment affects the value of derivative damage or becomes the coefficient of some skills directly. The multiplier increases the hero's derivative damage by X amount. It shows what you actually have based on your stats. And derivative damage is additional damage generated by a specific skill. Gains an enlightenment bonus, but cannot trigger a crit. So there are certain heroes that are just really, really good with enlightenment as the focus. A lot of the poisoners are that way. The burn heroes are that way. And so are some dauntless like Shalter and Avelios. Like Shalter here has this great passive where he does extra attack derivative damage to enemies. And then there's also some other stuff here, derivative damage with his ultimate. And this is someone that you just build with as much enlightenment as possible, plus attack. But you really wouldn't worry about critting because you're going to be focusing on the highest enlightenment possible. Flora as another example of a legendary that would be that way. Some of the poisoners, you want to have some solid enlightenment as well. It's a bit of a stat heavy thing, but every hero is different. So accuracy, counteracting resistance, that's talked about here as well. Crit rate, crit damage, that's kind of obvious. Skill haste is your skill, your battle skill, and your ultimate's recharging times. And then attack interval is your basic attacks, how often you hit. So hopefully that helps to clear up some of the questions regarding the hero stats. Now, there is this nice little feature here where if you have a favorite character that you just think looks badass and you want them to be the first one you always see, you can bump them to the top. So every time you open your game, you can see that character first. That's a cool part of the interface here. And there are some recommendations here in the guides little section that you can actually kind of see what players say. You could see recommended lineups, like what's their role and who would you likely build them, like how would you build them in a team? And then a walkthrough with some recommended gear. Now, sometimes the gear is not the best recommendation as far as the artifacts go because it's based on the active players. But if someone, I remember seeing like Zadok have, I don't have him now, darn it. But I remember seeing some funny stuff where people were using like really illogical gear on those people. So that's interesting to see. And a lot of times it does not include the legendary artifact. It will only include the lower tier because it's what more players have. So take this part with a grain of salt and just use what you think is best or follow some of our artifact guides, which I'm also going to talk about a little bit more. But that's going to be, you know, that's going to be more in my shops and exchange section that I'm going to do for a separate video. Now, inspirations. You're going to notice that legendary heroes have inspirations when you go to upgrade. This is part of the duplicate system. So only legendary heroes have inspirations. They're extra skills plus stats. When you get a duplicate of the hero, you get these souls. The souls can be used to purchase artifacts, which are legendary artifacts for the legendary heroes, of course, and even class specific, like you need an ice type hero to be able to buy a frost or like an ice blast in the future artifact that go along with those damage types. Again, with a fight, you need to sacrifice a fire hero to be able to get a wild specific artifact as well. And the other thing to know is like once you sacrifice a soul that's a duplicate, then you no longer can get it back. Like it's stuck forever. But if you take advantage of these duplicates here and you inspire them, you can always get the inspirations back. So that's cool. There's a reset for inspirations if you had them on. So if you're not sure which artifacts you want to buy, or you have so many and you really don't need to, you need to start specializing. You've got all the main legendary, mythic artifacts they're called now. I apologize. The red ones that used to be gold. Once you have all of the mythic artifacts, then you're going to not necessarily know what to do until you hit the moment where you realize you need something. So just throw those inspirations on the hero that you're using and take advantage of the stat boost in the meantime because you can always get them back. So regarding that in the dupe system, there's also stuff to talk about when you summon. So when you summon a hero, let's do one right now, you're going to see the dupe system in action besides the souls from legendaries, which give you artifact opportunities. So this is what happens when you get a duplicate. You get Essence of Creation. And the essence of creation is used to improve the artifacts. Now, when you first start out your account here on that season 1, anyone that's a new hero to your account is going to give you, of course, no extra essence, but this is only for dupes. And when you first get dupes for the very first time, you're also going to get a special orb currency here. Like, look, I have the imprint stones from the epics here are used to buy legendary artifacts. I wish they didn't change it from epic to legendary to mythic, because epic souls went with epic artifacts, but now rare imprint stones go with epic artifacts. So it's a little bit confusing, but you can see here, I have 35 of these. I can buy some more, but I don't know what I need yet. I'm waiting until I hit those blocks of needing something specific. Then I will purchase the artifact when I'm ready. But this is the first part of the dupe system when you're summoning, is you get orbs for the blue and the purple, the rares and the epic heroes. Once you've got enough to buy out the whole shop, like I've done here, you no longer get this and you only get the essence of creation instead. So that kind of covers the dupe system. Just use your dupes wisely when it comes to the mythics, because those are sacrificing a hero. And when it comes to exclusives, I guess I gotta say, you're always going to want to, if you get a duplicate of an exclusive hero that has an exclusive weapon, you always want to save that duplicate for their special artifact. They're just so much better. But the exclusives with the dupes require a second dupe. So personally, as someone who has a flora on my main account, I always save one extra dupe. So in case I get that flora duplicate, I'm ready to go in order to get her special artifact. I don't have to wait till I pull another legendary hero duplicate to buy her mythic exclusive artifact. So hope that makes sense for that. Now, artifacts, the TLDR, which I'll talk about more in probably some other videos, but I guess I'll do that here because it's important, is the low levels, you're just going to end up buying them all eventually, but you're probably going to want to start out with stuff like the Volcanic Disc for some damage with heroes that are doing good ultimates. The Banner of Oath scales extremely well for tanks. It's your total defense after all the stats that get a big bonus. And it's just need one ally next to them for that to happen. And yeah, that's kind of the main ones. If you're working with someone like that needs enlightenment, you could buy this, but not needed. The little healer one here increases healing for anyone, so this is a nice general artifact to get. The legendary ones, you're going to skip most of those fancy ones. You can see which ones I chose to purchase. The Crown of Unclean is always first for the defense penalty. This makes fighting against bosses so much better. Life Spindle is good for people with good heals on their battle skills. We have the Tiara, which is good for shield heroes if you can't get the Gatekeeper staff that is mythic. This is really good when you're trying to get your cooldowns lower for your ultimates. And the Eyeball is just like one of the best DPS ones you can get in general. Arcane Music Box, even if you don't have shield heroes, you might buy this just to get your crit rate up easier on your character. And same thing here, this is really good. The Horseshoe gives you a crit damage bonus and then attack speed as well. So this helps you build a bunch of crit damage on a hero. When it comes to mythic artifacts, of course, this is the more complicated one because this requires a legendary hero sacrificed in order to get them. But the first choice is always Witch's Remains. There's still no contest there. And then I would say the Gatekeeper staff is a good second or third choice, depending on if you have Garius in that season 1, because he is like the guy for it. There's okay use for some others in season 1, but it really doesn't get out until season 2, 3, 4. They have more heroes that can also thrive in the Gatekeeper staff to be able to take advantage of it. I say this is only a Garius thing for now. You're better off with other stuff like the Horn or something else for other healers, or there's some other tank artifacts you can use as well, or the Hourglass. So the Hourglass is usually my second pick on any account, but because I got Garius so early on, I did decide to buy or did I even get Garius? Am I just crazy right now? Am I talking out of my ass? I don't even know. Did I even get Garius? Did I? Oh yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, because I got Garius so early on, I did want to take advantage of that. Whew, it's a lot, guys. It's a lot, but there's some TLDR for the artifacts, now let's look at the gear. So the best place to look at the gear is probably to look here. So our Grave of Venom is going to be our special gear drops. When you start off with the blue in the lower levels. These are just a 2-piece set. And then the epic gear is also a 2-piece set. And these do stack. So like if you have 2 sets of this epic gear that's 30% crit attack and 20% crit rate. Like if you put 2 sets of this, you can stack those. But when it comes to the 3-piece sets of the legendary gear, these do not like stack if you make it a 4-piece set. Like you can only get the crit rate and attack top bonus once, and then the other part is the bonus difference here. So in season 1, the DPS sets are Executioner's okay. It's pretty solid for most stuff, but Platinum Knight is good when you have a hard-hitting ultimate, even though it has Enlightenment. Ignore that. The fact that you gain a 30% damage bonus when they use their ultimate is huge. So this is good for anyone who has a nice, big, hard-hitting ultimate skill. Except I would say the Gambler can be better on heroes like Tunnelnon and Erich that have like 5-hitter ultimates. It's more chances to proc true damage, but it's only like a 30% chance to proc it. So you want more chances to be procking that with their ultimate. And you're really not going to use that on someone that only hits 1 time. That's kind of where that goes. And then the Troll Helmet's pretty good for someone who maybe has damage but needs to heal. Like you could put this on someone like an Usha or whoever you are using to be a melee damage dealing tank for something like Goblin. If they have a little bit of trouble with survivability, that could be helpful there. Some heroes are going to scale better with 2 sets broken up. Like maybe you do 1 set of, you do 2 pieces here of Platinum Knight for the attack plus Enlightenment, and then you do 2 pieces of the Assassin Epic version of attack and Enlightenment to really give attack and Enlightenment to a healer like Hexandra, for example. That's probably a good thing to know. And then when it comes to the Mythic gear, you're going to be focusing this amazing Precise Carnage gauntlets. That is so, so good. All right, and then I guess I shouldn't go too much into detail. We are gonna talk about this again when I do my content, but I wanted to talk about that here because this is talking about how to gear heroes and the mechanics, so it does matter. It definitely does matter. So when it comes to Grave of Curse, this is our support gear. So again, that's kind of how that works. And I will just quickly call out that the mantle, Moonlight Mantle, is very strong for healers and shielders of the Mythic gear. You don't get the Mythic gear until you're up at stage 9, though. Legendary gear, the Ancestral Protection, is good for damage mitigation on any tank, plus it can take off the heat from others as well. And then the self-healing set is really cool, the Blue Oak one. This one is really good if you have Cypherus as a healer slash reviver because she sacrifices her own HP. And if you don't have another healer in the team, then she's just going to die on a long battle, so she can heal herself. That's kind of nice for someone like that that might also have a tank or like, you know, kind of role. And then other support sets here are for the general, like, I guess this is more like your tanks in most cases, and this is more your support, with Cypherus being the exception over here. And this is going to be an okay series, but honestly, at the end of the day, I would say these are not that important for most content, except for maybe Arena. The Mythic pieces, you're going to put the gloves of Venom more than likely on your heroes if you're going to go that route, because you're either going to have a DPS in a glove or you're going to have a support in Moonlight Mantle or something. But the legendary sets are really strong. Holy Hunter is amazing as a stun set. You put this on someone like a Vorash that hits the whole board multiple times, or anyone else that can help bring some crowd control with an AoE smash. It's going to be huge in something like Goblin, Pillar of Trial, and even Arena. And then the skill haste set is also pretty cool here. This is amazing to boost your team. So someone that's going to be placing debuffs, when they use their ultimate, all allies gain an attack bonus. So that's like having the Horn artifact as well. So that's 2 different ways to buff your team. And then Ruins and Battlefield are our runes. So those are the other slots. And you can see what, when you're going to gear your heroes, you can see what is available by just simply clicking the filters. Like things that you cannot have for that piece of gear are crossed out. So it makes it pretty easy to see, like, okay, so I need Enlightenment for Tauren. Oh wait, I can't get Enlightenment on this rune. I can get it on this rune though. Like that's kind of how you can tell how to build. So you're like, okay, maybe this one is HP then for survivability, or I just focus how I can get enlightenment on the substats instead. So that will help you gear. Also, when it comes to gearing, I do want to mention early on, I actually have a video called Early Game Gearing Guide that you can watch for a little bit more in depth of this discussion. But before, when I made that gearing guide, there was no mythic gear, so it's a little bit different. But when you're level 70 or 3-star and below, most cases the flat stat, like flat HP per HP versus HP percentage, is actually better. So I know it might sound like HP percent sounds like it's better, but in the very first stages of your first like week of gameplay, you're gonna or when you have only level 70s, you're going to be using flat stat gear, but not this level, not the legendary. I'm talking more so for your blue and purple gear. So keep that in mind, that the percentage is not always better when you're very early on. That's an important thing to know about like the stats for the game. Now I'm going to go into positioning for the different dungeons, more specifically when I do that separate guide, but positioning matters. So you're going to see here, the yellow line means that you're attacking them, but they're not attacking you. The purple line means you're attacking each other, and the red line means they're only attacking you. So see, purple line, they're attacking each other, and depending on where I put Adolphus, you know, this is going to affect that. You can see how that changes. So that's what those lines mean. And when the bosses have specific ranges, which show up here, like this diamond shape is very popular for a lot of bosses and heroes, you need to pay attention to how that's going to affect the targeting. So like if you just have people just casually spread out, like you would have like this, and like the tank, and then maybe he's just kind of here, everyone's going to get hit. It's not smart for that shape. So you need to position people in a way that actually, you know, matters. And this is set up a certain way to help take some heat off the tank, but that's another one to explain. But positioning really does matter. Even in Goblin as well, kind of pulling people back and drawing them forward can help. It's not necessary, but I've noticed personally it does help. And yeah, you're going to really see that once you get to the continental challenges and you have all these bosses to fight. Paying attention to the way the bosses hit to where you can draw their attention to certain spots is sometimes really cool. Like you'll notice in some cases, especially in, yeah, like the continental challenges, that you can get away with like shoving all your people to one corner if you have a tank to draw their attention up to the top, and then they're only hitting the tank, and they're not hitting the other people in the corner. Or sometimes you need 2 people, depending on the situation, to be those tanks. But yeah, you can draw the attention away from other people so that they never take any damage. That's something really, really fun to yeah, consider as well. So I actually want to talk now about, oh god, positioning in a different term. So I'll use Flame Domain for this example. Harpy is the same. Let's just go in here. Flame Domain, they give you burn damage. And burn does AoE damage to the enemy and its adjacent tiles. So in something like the Flame Domain or Harpy, you're going to spread out your heroes so none of them are touching each other. Like, you wouldn't want to put people like in a formation like this, even though Megan has a heal like this, because you're just going to cause yourself to actually get even more damage. So you should never have people touching each other in that situation. You're going to really kill your team pretty fast if that's the case, because they're all going to take extra damage. Unless you're really good about cleansing those burns with a crazy amount of cleansers, and that can be an exception, I guess. All right, now the Vortex is another place to talk about this too, because it's really important. So like Isolde or Furboth, Vortex, you luckily can kind of group people around just fine. It's actually not a big deal to spread people out for any reason. You could have, everyone's just going to be attacking the boss. So it's more so about what your team needs. Like Isolde here can only heal or put shields who's in her range. So if you left Isolde there and you had other people here on the corners, they're not even going to be getting her shields to be protected. So you also have to be aware of what your support range is when you're positioning. There's also an artifact like called the Fan. That's a mythic artifact that is for heroes that do derivative damage or scales with enlightenment. It's a really cool bonus for someone like Flora or Avelios or Zorak in later seasons, where you want them to be as far away from the enemy as possible. And it says that in the description. So definitely pay attention to that sort of thing too. Now, while we're here in a Vortex, this is a perfect place to show off your team presets, right? So, okay, you can save team presets for everything in the game. It's so nice. The team preset will also save your entire equipment loadout, artifacts, runes, everything. It's so much easier than just using the gear plan feature that's with the equipment. I didn't even mention the gear plan feature for this reason, but I do need to mention that when it comes to these spots, 12 out of 15, you can see there's 15 spots that are free. But if you purchase the value pack that is like the stamina one, you get 15 more spots. That alone makes me willing to buy that. It's so helpful when you get to like Otherworld exploration or these continental boss challenges where you need to have 6 teams per element at least. And then when it comes to Otherworld exploration, you can have up to 15 teams just for Otherworld bosses, potentially, if you go that route, which is the best points, which we'll talk about in another video. But this is a huge value, the team preset. So, okay. Along with the team presets, if you're going to, you could swap out heroes for the lineups as needed within that preset, or you could save a new team. You could hit to save a new team here if it was something that was brand new. But now, this is amazing. You can label them how you will. You can move them around and sort them. You could also access the team presets in the hero screens, which I should probably point out because this is really cool. So under the team, you could see the team presets right here. So this helps you as well. And I love that also, if you're fighting a battle and you want to edit someone to upgrade them, it shows what your currently deployed heroes are. You can see that way up at the top, currently deployed heroes. So if you're only looking at the heroes that are you're currently in a battle with, but it's not a saved team preset, this makes it very easy to do so and very easily to see what you got, mix around gear, upgrade a few more levels if you're working on your upgrades, etc. So that is amazing a feature as well. Also, the next topic of this video is timings, and this is kind of going to be the last topic for this video, timings. So Vortex is you see boss information. So this boss has a 20-second rotation, but like a lot of them, just because it's 20 seconds doesn't mean they actually do their skill at exactly 20 seconds. So that, like, a lot of people do 21.5 for your final person who is going to, oh, it's this one. This should be her. She should be 21.5 before she actually puts up the shield on allies. That's pushing it to the max and allowing you to overlap the next skills to come a little bit. So my team here is a team where I have, again, it really depends on your artifacts too. So there's so much to talk about, but this is a little bit of a wonky one. It's not perfect. My Flora team is probably a better example, or like an Unkillable has very specific timings. And by Unkillable, I mean using Zephy and Ogak up to turn 150. That's something where timings really matter. But overall, you're going to have people set on a 20-second rotation that you want to keep in line. So the first person I have is the person who has the defense penalty. In most cases, whichever DPS or support that you have that hits 3 times, or 4 times, or 5 times in that Witch's Remains or the Crown of Unclean artifact, they're going to go first. So then, after that's landed, boom, I'm going to have my Erich go second, because Tunnelnut has a passive where she does more crit damage if her allies have done wild procs. So she's going to go last. So you just space them out a little bit as needed. There's obviously exceptions to the rules on who should go first and what for people like Flora or Avelios, I think even. Shalter. Shalter has the kind of ultimate where you'd want him to go and then everyone else procs their stuff afterward. But that's a whole nother big discussion too. And yeah. And then here, if you're going to use something like, let's go out to our equipment. So if you had something like the horn, which I don't have, the horn as a artifact, the horn actually boosts the team after you use your ultimate. So if you want to boost the team attack before the other people use their ultimate, you could have that support hero wearing the horn go before all your damage dealers. Or if you have someone in the Brotherhood set where after they use their ultimate, the allies gain attack, you might want that person to go before everyone else uses their ultimate too. But you kind of have to weigh out your timings on what's most important. So technically, for me to really benefit, I should change this, because I didn't have Ogak in a Brotherhood set before. So now, because I do, let's make all of my DPS go after Ogak so they all can benefit from the attack bonus. So instead, we're going to go 15, 15.5, and 16. Good enough. Now everyone can benefit from Ogak wearing a Brotherhood set. So that's a huge little bonus here that can really help the battle. So let's go into the battle so we can talk about how things look. So some battles, most of them only have 2 times speed right now, but you can see Vortex has a 10 times rapid speed right here, and that's just really amazing. Also like Fey Meander, Pillar of Trial, and like the World Area Clears, the ones that say area, those are also 10 times speed. We don't have them for all the dungeons yet, but that's fine. We usually need to watch things or slow things down. Now you can see down here, there's a little timer button this behind me. Actually, I was blocking the stuff. So yeah, again, right below me here, we have 10 times, that's what the rapid one is, 10 times, then 2 times and 1 times. Turning on your auto is important when you first start your battles. And then of course, this little timer means you're using your timings, but you could uncheck that if you wanted to start manualing a battle. And when you start manualing a battle, that just means you hit the little timer, the little circles that are with each character over on the right side if you want to time something specifically. So maybe you're in something like the flame domain and you always manual to get to get better rewards. You can choose to do so by simply unchecking their little ultimate box and using it right before the boss does their ultimate. Like if you have someone in the incense burner, the legendary artifact, or if you have someone in the hourglass, the mythic artifact, their timings are going to be better than everybody else. And it can be sometimes a little bit tricky to speed things to deal with it. And if you have people in your team that have like recharging speed penalty or ultimate energy reduction or whatever, it can throw off your timing. So sometimes you need to manual. Manualing is important in some cases to really get the best out of your rewards. And my timings are showing a perfect example of how much of a difference they can make. I did this same team for like many days, okay? Many days I did the same team. We haven't switched over to the next buff in Vortex, which is another discussion. I was only doing the 33 million. I just did almost 36 million just by changing the timings to get that buff from Ogak wearing a Brotherhood set. So this is a good example of seeing that in action. Another example to roll back to the idea of needing to manual sometimes, I would say is something like Pillar of Trial, okay? So let's just go in here to Pillar of Trial. And I'm going to just go into where we have, okay, let's go where we have a good, you know what, let's go here for Zarloth. This will be a good example. So I'm going to slow down my speeds. I'm not going to care if they have gear or not. Okay, we don't even have a whole team in there. Let's just throw them a Cetarian. When no one has gear, it's fine. They do remind you in this game if you don't have gear. But what I want to show you is not, so this you can see on and off the autos go on the bottom. But let's turn off Zarloth. You can manually choose where you attack. So sometimes like he would just attack here in the front because that's where most of the enemies are. But let's say you want to make sure he's attacking the back plus the tank or whatever. You can actually adjust that. So maybe you're in a battle where those dang nukers in the back keep destroying you and you really need to crowd control them with someone like Zarloth. This is where you're going to manual and choose where. You just click on them simply enough and drag it to where you need it. But if it's something that's like a full board and you just need to do it for timing's sake, like a Voresh, for example, then you don't need to click and drag. You can just turn it on and off as you need it. Like you can be like, okay, I'm waiting for that one who's about to do their ultimate, then I'm going to pop theirs to crowd control them. This is a good example of when to manual. And I call it semi-manual because the game is like an auto chess style, but you can at least control the timings of the ultimates. But yeah, that's kind of the basics of the game mechanics, I think. I think that covers it pretty well. Make sure you check out my last video. Again, already covered a lot of the beginner stuff for the very first week of gameplay, at least, which you're going to have your first questions. But then there are going to be more videos to come. So the next part of my series is going to include the game modes and the bosses. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into each type of content, but still give a TLDR because I have full guide videos, which I will reference in each video. I will reference the ones to go to if you want the real dive deep. But at least we're going to go through and actually talk about each thing and how to counteract the bosses a little bit, or what kind of heroes you need for each type of content. And then we're going to have a summoning gacha video, the gacha system explained. I talk about it a little bit in the first video that's already been posted, but there's a lot more to talk about there, honestly. It's a lot to talk about. Then we're going to talk the alliance system, your guild, your clans. What does that look like? Your membership, your as being a leader, what does that look like? What are the tournaments? What's the golden wing match? The vortex boss in a little bit more detail again as well will be at least touched on because it's going to be part of the topic. Then the shops. What do you buy in those shops? What do you buy as the exchange? What is the best artifacts? Again, I'll probably briefly mention, but we're going to look at all the shops here and how do you get these fancy resources to buy those things. What about the store? What's worth investing real dollars in? Is it amazing value with this $1 chest? What can you really get from that? Oh, and there's a extra bonus hero that happens too, thanks to one of the events. That's a video to come as well. Then there will be a video on events. I'm going to explain the events, the special events like the D&D collabs, the once a season events like these UTR one is in season 1. Then we're going to talk about the different events that are always reoccurring, like hard training or these other dungeon things, hero training, whatever it may be. Then we have the Otherworld exploration, which kind of transitions right from these continental challenge bosses, and that continues the story as well. And that's a whole other area added to the game each end of the season. And then the endgame boss. Once you're done with the tasks of Otherworld exploration, the endgame boss is what you fight. So we'll get some tips and tricks about that as well. And of all of these videos, I will reference where I have deeper dive, proper full videos, not just giving you the TLDR of what you need to know. And finally, the final video of this series will be seasons. How do the seasons work? What do you need to know about what resets and doesn't reset? And how do you prepare for a future season? And we'll also talk about our hopes for the game changes to the seasonal structure in that video as well. But all right, guys, there is the breakdown, another detailed video. I hope you guys liked it. Thank you for watching. There's lots more to come. This will have chapters, don't you worry, like always. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to download via Android, iOS, Mac PC, Steam, or Epic Games if you haven't already. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. And thank you to Dragonheir Silent Gods for sponsoring today's video.